Welcome on the Kaiju no Kami here at Color Anime Fest 2018 with
Relica Kane.
And we are interviewing
Joel McDonald.
Just to start though, for the audience that might not know you, what are some of the roles you have done?
Let's see, my first big role was Jacuzzi Splot in Baccano. I have also played Takumi in Initial D, played Kuma in One Piece, Zeref in Fairy Tail, Aoyama in My Hero Academia, Minato in Sekirei, Captain Flint in Borderlands 2, and other stuff. I'm sure.
You don't know everything you did off the top of your head?
I mean, I could Google it for you.
So you have, doing some research, I noticed that you've done, obviously the voiceover,
Sure.
directing, as well as you've done some script writing.
Yes.
So you've gone full scope.
Yep.
How is how have each helped you throughout your career? Because they're all different aspects.
Yeah, no, well, I think everyone who wants to get involved in an industry, it doesn't matter what the industry is, learning all aspects of it is wildly helpful. And so as a director, I like knowing how the scripts are written, so I know, I have a better idea of why the writer made that choice, and we've got these timing constraints, the lip movement, the mouth flaps to deal with and everything, and so I'm very sensitive to what the writer has already had to go through to get these lines exactly where they need to be, but adjustments will always need to be made. So, but as a writer as well, I'm really quick on rewrites in the booth. If something's not working for timing or for any other reason, I'm pretty good about figuring out a way to say the exact same thing in slightly different timing, and so it makes it go a lot faster. And in dubbing, especially, going fast is the only way that we make money, because it's a niche industry, and it's getting better, and it's getting a lot more popular now than it was when I was in high school. I mean, I was aware of anime. Well, when I was in high school, it was called Japanimation.
Oh yes, I remember that.
Back in the day. But yeah, I being and as a writer, I know how. If I have good sense of what the energy is, of the emotion is of the scene, I know generally what that's going to do to the actor's voice. If it's loud and angry, it might tend to go a little bit faster, so I might be able to squeeze an extra word or two in. If it's going to be dark and threatening and slow and deliberate, then I know I can spread it out some. And as an actor, and whenever I'm doing each of those jobs, whether I'm directing or writing or acting, I try to put myself only in that, especially when I'm acting. I don't try to direct for the director. I am a tool to help them realize their vision. And so I turn my brain off to a certain extent and just put myself in their capable hands and let them guide me. And because when I'm a director, when I'm an actor in the booth, that's what I want. And that's not to say that I refuse to have any kind of collaboration or whatever. I'm actually very collaborative, but I have an idea of how this should sound. If you have a different idea, let's talk about it. Why do you think that we should approach it this way? But ultimately the director has to be the authority in the room, and it's my job to know the series better than anybody else. So I know, hey, you want to go big and loud here, but I don't, because I want the apex of the scene to be over here. So we're going to build to that. So and so there are kind of a lot of things that I've learned through my career in theater of how to build a scene, how to create a character, and how to convey an emotion to an audience. I started in theater when I was a kid. I've done voiceover and some commercials and stuff like that as well. But I've always been absolutely committed to stories. I don't really care how I'm telling the story. I want it to be a good story, and I want the opportunity to show someone something about humanity or themselves or whatever that they maybe hadn't considered. I took some psychology classes in high school and in college, and one of my favorite things that I learned was the concept of rehearsal, which is, in psychological terms, rehearsal is going over something in your brain and kind of better preparing you for, if you think a lot about your dad dying or something like that. When your dad does die, you are more prepared mentally, psychologically, because it's not coming completely out of left field. You've considered this before, and so theater is actually an excellent way to kind of let people play in these headspaces, about maybe some dark topics, some things that people don't like to spend a lot of time thinking about. But the more you experience those, especially through the lens of getting to watch someone else experience it and to feel those emotions yourself, it better prepares you for life. And I think the more stories that you tell, and the more you're involved in those kind of things, I think it makes you a better person. It makes you more empathetic. It makes you very tolerant and understanding, because and actors will tell you when you're playing a villain, if you play him as a villain, you're failing.
Well, yes.
A villain has to be the hero of an untold story. They think they're good. They think that they're doing what has to be done, and it's almost completely universal. There are very few characters that don't fit into that, and they're actually Shakespearean. But generally, so you have to put yourself in the mindset of that person, and how did they get to this place, which might be completely incomprehensible to us when we first meet the character, but once you learn about their backstory and their motivations and what they've been through and how they got to this point, then they're not a bad guy anymore. And I think that when you apply that to life, you might meet someone that is you hate, and everything that they think is completely the opposite of what you think. But it doesn't mean that they're bad. It just means that they see the world a different way. And so I think the more I have acted and the more I've been involved in these different projects, I think I'm a better guy. And I don't know if that's true or if I'm just blowing smoke up my own butt, but
I find that absolutely fascinating, especially when you put the psychology into it, because that's something admittedly I haven't heard before, is utilizing psychology to help assess how you'll act, or how you'll present the character in writing, or how even you'll direct it.
Right.
So it's nice to know that there's so many other elements than just reading a part or writing a part, that you put so much of yourself into it, and you take something back with you that helps mold you at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I love working on, one of my favorite little directing tricks that I did was when I directed Dead Man Wonderland many years ago. And for those, I'm not going to give anything away, but there was kind of a big reveal at the end of the series. It was like, oh my god, and it's shocking and jaw-dropping or whatever. But it was important to me that the actors playing these parts didn't get that information beforehand. And so we actually, with both Greg Ayres and Monica Rial, we actually skipped around and did some scenes out of order so that they didn't know things when they weren't supposed to know them.
Oh, that's a good idea.
And it was really cool, and both of them are capable actors, and I'm sure I could have just told them, hey, here's who the bad guy is, here's what the twist is, and they would have still played it flawlessly. But I liked
that shock factor.
Yeah, I liked the shock factor. I liked for them getting that reveal when the character did, and they both thought that was really fun. They really enjoyed it. And both of them, it was like on their very last session of the deal when I finally kind of told them what was up, and they were like, it was just so neat. And they may have been able to give a perfect performance without even knowing that knowledge, but it was more fun for all of us to keep that from them. So keeping secrets from an actor is fun. I like it.
So with your theater background, have you ever had a play that you really were excited to do and you felt like your performance was not up to par? And what did you do to better yourself?
Every performance of everything I've ever done, and most actors will tell you the same. Doing the work is great, but then what you're always doing after that is learning, developing, growing as a performer. And so everybody wants to go back and do that show again with what you know now. So there are definitely shows that I think just went as flawlessly as they possibly could, given my experience and talent level at the time. But I'd still love to go tackle them again, and with what I can bring to the table now. I've been lucky to get. I got to play Salvador Dali in a play called Lobster Alice, which is a historical fiction about Dali's time working at Disney. And he worked with Disney at the Disney Animation Studios around the time they were developing the concept art for Alice in Wonderland. So the theory is that Dali's influence is pretty heavily felt in Wonderland.
And then there's that Fantasia scene.
Yeah. And I love getting to play Dali and learn the accents and learn his movements and his unpredictability and play around with that. And I love getting to play characters that are actual people. And so I got to do the research and watch videos of him and listen to interviews and everything. Just fascinating guy. I did a show called The Laramie Project, which was about the death of Matthew Shepard, who was killed in a gay bashing hate crime in the 90s, I believe. It's this brilliant play, and it's put together with interviews of people from Laramie, Wyoming, where the murder took place. And so it was an ensemble show, which means that each actor played multiple roles. And so we had to find, I think there were 9 of us, and we had to find ways to effectively and accurately portray something like 40, 50 different people, real life people that existed. And so we don't get to do these bubbly, silly caricatures of people. Like, we have to be honest and we have to be real. And so, finding those people, learning about them, seeing interviews with them, and kind of figuring out ways to take their characterizations and work them into the show to make specific characters and whatever. It was really challenging. But specifically, really, if someone's looking to get into voiceover, I always suggest theater, because and I call it a voiceover boot camp, because like you have all this extra time to make these decisions. You can memorize your lines, you can practice, you can get the exact right read, you can kind of go for that consistency. You're learning your blocking and whatever, and that's great. But you have all the time in the world to make these compelling, fun choices and take risks and all that. And then, but in voiceover, you have to your performance has to be just as nuanced and compelling and interesting. But you have next to zero time to prepare. And so, and I really push people to do as many ensemble shows as they can, because it's not only kind of creating different physical characterizations and how do they move, how do they breathe, what's their pacing, but it's finding their voice. And to prepare for that show, when I was I did it when I was in college at Sam Houston State in Huntsville, and I was a pizza delivery guy at the time. And so what I did to prepare was every time I would deliver a pizza, I would deliver it as the last person I had delivered a pizza to. Like I would memorize their characterizations, I would just kind of watch them and observe them or whatever, and so and then I would kind of just take that into my next delivery and see if I raise any eyebrows, and but ideally the person who I deliver the pizza to, probably doesn't care and isn't paying much attention to me, but it was a good opportunity to kind of play around with different voices and styles and everything, and see how those work with my body, my voice. It was really fun. I liked that, and I love doing stuff like that. Even now, you can probably tell I don't get a lot of haircuts, but even now, like I'll go and a haircut is like a 20-minute improv session for me, because and ever since I was a kid, like they asked, like, oh, so what do you do? Oh, I'm actually a taxidermist. It's all about lying and improving, and sometimes I'll do accents or dialects or something like that just to see how far I can push it. But it's every time they ask me a question, I have to lie to them. I have to, and it's an improv exercise, but it's really fun. And I love it when they give me their business card at the end. They're like, hey, we'll see you next time. I'm like, you will never see me again.
Does this mean you're lying right now?
Time will tell.
I find it hilarious because I think one thing my mother has always told me when I got into the professional world, if you don't know what to say, baffle them with BS.
There you go. Yeah.
And it sounds like you do that just for fun, so now I need to
My granddad used to say, never let the truth get in the way of a good story. And I've always liked that.
Now that sounds like something you hear in a noir.
Yeah.
Don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. It was a cold, dark night.
So, you're now at Gearbox.
Yes.
And I'm terrible with this, so my husband had to explain to me, because I know video games, but I don't know all the companies. So how has everything helped you going from doing a lot of what you've been doing before, now doing it for Gearbox?
It's the same, so it's still voiceover, and I'm still directing, but the timing constraints that are such a critical part of dubbing aren't there. So pre-lay animation is generally done before the animation is complete. They might have the character design done, and it's possible that there's some elements of the game that are already kind of created, but a lot of the times there'll be a camera on the actor in the booth as they're reading, and so that footage is then it's not used for promotional material or marketing or anything like that. That video is given to the animators, who would then use the actor's own characterizations to help develop the character. And so you don't have to match the flaps, and that's awesome. And it means that we kind of, I'm also working with the narrative team, so we come up with kind of different storylines and missions and things for different games. And it's great to not only, with dubbing, it's a wonderful creative challenge because you're given the finished product. Like this exists, tell this story in your language. But in video games, you help to decide what the story is. And it's great because if there's a character that we don't really understand completely, there's an aspect of them that's confusing for us, we can write in some of their backstory or whatever, or maybe do a side mission that helps them to kind of clarify a part of their personality that we hadn't gotten to play with before. And so having that additional creative freedom is, and I've only been there a month, but it's a joy. It really is. It's a lot of fun, and just getting to decide what'd be really fun at this moment. I want to add an extra sentence. You can't add an extra sentence in dubbing hardly ever.
Well, yeah.
You just don't have time. Hey, really slow this down and really get the point across. across, whatever. Like, you know, you don't always have that luxury in dubbing, and so it's kind of like I was telling one of the guys I work with now that's working in dubbing for 11 years, and all of a sudden now not having to match those same constraints and the flaps and whatever. It's like I've been training with weights on, and those weights are now gone.
So you're like Goku, Dragon Ball. Okay, I don't need this
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah. It is really fun. I'm having a great time, and I'm still learning the ins and outs of it because I was a gamer when I was a kid, but then I took a few years off, and when I came back, it's like there's 11 buttons, and like I can't do this. And like my wife and I, we got a PlayStation because it came with a new Metal Gear game, and I was like really, because I loved Metal Gear. It was probably one of the last games that I played on PlayStation before I ducked out of the gaming world for a while. But we both get really excited about it, and we both started trying to play it, and we played it for a few hours, and then we're like, we can't do it. Like at one point, like I think she ended up crawling under a truck and couldn't figure out how to stand up. You know, I was like, and I was doing the same thing. And actually, I started to teach myself first-person shooters with Borderlands last year, and I loved it. I had a great time, but at the same time, like I got to level 6 before I could realize before I realized I could run. Like I didn't even know running was an option. So I'm still terrible at it, but I love the story of it. Like it's great, and like you as the player get to help the story move along. It's like a choose your own adventure thing to a certain extent.
Well, and it seems like it's almost a culmination of everything that you've done
Mhm.
throughout your career. You can utilize it
Mhm.
to be able to help move the narrative along, especially if you
Yeah.
have more creative licensing
Mhm.
within a degree, obviously.
Sure, right, yeah, and the creative people that I work with, the narrative team, the producers, the mission writers, and like just everyone that I've worked with is incredibly talented at what they do,
Mhm.
and just and very experienced, and I know the gaming industry inside and out, and everyone's helping each other, and like everyone's got the same goal. Like we just need to make the best game of all time, kind of thing. And it's great to see the collaboration and how things start to change and develop once you start to work with these other people that know more than you do. It's great. I'm loving it.
What challenges are you looking forward to actually tackling now that you're at Gearbox?
You know, Gearbox works on a lot of different properties, and they're always kind of creating and developing new intellectual property, new games and things, and ways to approach the fan base. And they've done, you know, Brothers in Arms and Battleborn and Borderlands is their big one, and all that. And I love, and as an adaptive scriptwriter, and I've been writing Hunter x Hunter on Toonami for 100-something episodes, but I love the challenge of matching the style and intent of the original material. And so with, you know, I always want to tell the same story in English as the Japanese episode told in Japan. And with the Gearbox stuff, if I end up working on a project that's already existed, that's like the next step in the franchise, then it's not my job to. My main job isn't to create new content and like whatever. It's to as a voice director, it's my job to make sure that this fits seamlessly into the franchise, and so to make sure that the characterizations, the style, the humor, you know, the energy, intensity, all these kind of things, that because I don't want my hand to be seen in it. It was like when I was working on One Piece. One Piece is a great series, very long running, and Mike McFarlane had directed the bulk of the dub. But there were several others who kind of took a contract here and there, Scott Sager, Jason Grundy. But everybody had been working together on it for, I think, 8 or 9 years before I was brought on as a director. And so what I did was I just made sure that I watched every single dubbed episode that had existed, and so that I got to know the characters as well as I could, so that, and then I trust the actors that I work with. At one point, very early on, there was a chopper line that Brina Palencia was in, she was recording with us, and there was a chopper line that I was like, oh, that's really funny, but I bet we can make it funnier. How about we say this instead? And Brina looked at it and she goes, oh, that is really funny. Chopper wouldn't say that. I was like, good. I'm glad I knew that, because like if you know, if I didn't have her there to say, you know, we actually don't go dumb with Chopper, because like, oh, okay, you know, it'd be funny, it'd be cute or whatever. But that would be to make me laugh, and that's not my job. Like my job is to merge seamlessly into what everybody else has already kind of established, so that like you should never be able to watch 2 episodes and go, well, that's a Mike episode and that's a Joel episode. If you can tell that, I have failed. But yeah, Gearbox is same deal. You know, they've got a lot of existing intellectual property, and some of it will continue, some of it maybe not, some of it will be new stuff. I don't really know. I haven't been there long, but yeah, if I do get to tackle anything that has already been established and is already part of the lore and the canon of that franchise, it's my job to immerse myself in it and to learn the world and to just figure out a new way to kind of play in that sandbox.
That is awesome. It sounds like it's an exciting adventure.
Well, it's
too.
also great when, like, when the actors are like, no, my character wouldn't do that, so
Yeah.
they know their own characters.
Yeah, it's great.
Because there are some shows, like sometimes when you watch The Simpsons, you can tell when one episode was written by someone
Right.
from another writer.
Sure, right.
But I like that authenticity and the fact that, like you said early on in the interview, that the collaboration, it's so important.
Yeah.
If you can't work together and trust each other, then you've all failed
Right.
to be able to successfully do something.
Sure. Yeah, and we have in the month I've been there, we've butted heads a few times. Like, you know, I want to do this. That doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't have to. Yes, it does. You know, it's like there's been, but it's always everyone's on the same page as far as, like, you know, we're trying to make the most interesting, the most compelling, the most you know, just captivating game.
Exactly.
And so as long as everybody is kind of on the same page, yes, there will be some infighting or whatever, but like as long, I mean, even in the theater world, like, you know, I've had directors throughout my life that they'll say, I want you to do it this way. I'm like, I want to do it this. You know, like if you can back it up through the text, I'll let you try it. Like, and so same deal. It's like, okay, well, let's try it your way and see what happens. Let's try it this way and see what happens. And sometimes you'll find stuff that like you didn't think was going to work and you didn't want it to, and it does. And you're like, well, god dang it. Okay, fine. I guess we're doing that now. But it's great. It's exciting when those things happen. It's fun.
Do you have any social media links that people can find you online?
I do. Man, I should write these out. Okay, so my Twitter handle is incomprehensible when you just say it, but it's at the symbol and then ATYES, the number 2 ATS. So it's at yes 2 ats. I thought it was really funny. It's just the bane of my existence now. The other one is on Instagram. It's okjoelok, all spelled out. OKAY. I'm starting to hate that one too. I'm technically on Facebook, but why? Like, it's so stupid. I'm getting off soon.
Yeah, Facebook is not as good as it used to be.
Well, it's a great way to find out which of your cousins are racist, but like, I'm not entirely sure I want to keep going down that rabbit hole.
Well, the only reason I keep Facebook is my sister posts every picture of my nephews.
And I have, like, some of the things with Facebook also is because we're originally from Buffalo, New York. We
Uh-huh.
moved here in 2006, so some of my high school friends are on Facebook, so I have that.
It's good to keep up with people, sure.
And then also for the channel, for the viewers,
Oh, yeah.
I have people that.
But I
use
do
Facebook.
like your comment. That's perfect.
Any final?
Well, I guess I just really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you, to learn a little bit more. And I guess as we are about to sign off, what's your favorite movie?
Oh, my favorite movie? Robin Hood, the Disney cartoon.
Oh,
Okay, since you're doing that, what's your favorite Metal Gear?
It's solid.
Alright, well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck to you
And
guys.
until next time, bye.
Bye.